Invite viewers to post their location and the time right now. Because when stories like this unravel, it matters where you are. It matters how you see the world. Picture this. Dawn just breaking, sunlight not yet sharp enough to cast real shadows. A kitchen that smells like fresh coffee and the comfort of a robe still warm from the dryer. When suddenly the kind of pounding you only expect from TV police dramas rattles the front door like it's about to come clean off its hinges. Daniel freezes mid-sip, mug in hand, and Sarah appears in the hallway tugging her hair back, giving him that arched eyebrow that says, "What now?" Outside, for men line the porch in what look like tactical uniforms if tactical uniforms were ordered from a Halloween catalog. Cheap polyester, shiny in the early light, big block letters across the back spelling HOA inspector. Sunglasses at sunrise, clipboards tucked like props, pistols on their belts that might fool a sleepy neighbor. And front and center, Greg Morrison, or at least that's the name he gives, smug grin under a ball cap, playing sheriff in a game no one asked for. He demands Sarah step out, says there are official reports of a violation, a potential security breach. Daniel, still trying to process whether this is real life or some improv sketch, mutters, questioning by the HOA. But Greg leans in, muscles authority into his voice, repeating the threat, easy way or hard way. Historians still argue whether neighborhood feuds begin with fences, barking dogs, or men like Greg, but in this case it starts right here, with a neighbor in costume pounding at dawn. Sarah doesn't flinch, doesn't even raise her voice. She asks for a warrant. Greg stumbles, tries to dodge the word. She asks again, sharper, arrest warrant? Search warrant? Paperwork of any kind? His men shift, one coughs into his hand to hide a laugh. Another looks away like he'd rather be mowing his lawn. And that's when Sarah straightens just enough for Daniel to catch the subtle change. The way her shoulders square, her calm face sliding into something practiced, professional. She tells Daniel, almost casually, to call the sheriff's office. Ask for the duty sergeant. Report 4 armed men impersonating officers. Greg's smirk twitches into a snarl, his hand brushing the grip of that not-so-standard pistol, but Sarah's voice slices clean. The mistake is yours. The air grows so still that even Mrs. Jenkins, peeking from behind lace curtains, seems to hold her breath. Somewhere a camera shutter clicks. Someone is already capturing the moment. And Daniel realizes that whatever mask Sarah wears for the neighborhood, whoever Greg thinks he's confronting, it's about to be stripped away, and he's standing in the doorway between the life he thought they had and the truth that's about to break it open. The thing about quiet suburbs is they sell you the promise of peace like it's written into the deed, tree-lined streets, cul-de-sacs where kids chalk hopscotch on the pavement, neighbors waving like extras in a toothpaste commercial. Daniel and Sarah thought they bought that when they left San Diego, him a civil engineer tired of traffic and deadlines, her officially just a security consultant, which sounded boring enough to keep questions short. Oakwood Heights seemed the dream. Cookouts, evening walks, Greg waving from his driveway in a neat polo or sometimes a full police uniform that gave everyone a sense of safety. For a while it was exactly that. But then came the fence. 6 feet of wrought iron, perfectly legal under city code, perfectly suited for the privacy Sarah liked when she worked out back. To Greg, though, it was a wall against his self-styled authority, a barrier that blocked his view and maybe his control. He came to the door with that fake badge patch sewn on, asking if they'd lower it for community harmony. Daniel politely refused, but Greg's smile curdled, and within a week a forged legal notice landed in their mailbox claiming $500 daily fines. Quirky detail here, the law firm, named on the letter later admitted they'd never heard of the Walkers, meaning Greg had basically weaponized clip art letterhead, a move so desperate even conspiracy forums would laugh at it. Neighbors began to avoid eye contact. Friendly waves turned into stiff nods. Anonymous notes, syrupy in tone, started appearing. Please work with the community, followed by nastier ones about outsiders. Sarah tucked each into Ziplocs, labeling them like evidence. She didn't rant, she cataloged. Meanwhile, Greg staged emergency HOA meetings right on their lawn, accusing them of suspicious activities, hinting that Sarah's job was classified, fueling paranoia. Historians still argue whether paranoia spreads faster than gossip, but in Oakwood Heights it spread like crabgrass in August. By night, Daniel caught Greg whispering with strangers in the driveway, pointing at their house like it was under siege. Soon came the so-called safety inspections, clipboard brigades at 9 p.m., then at 2 a.m. with power mysteriously cut. Sarah never panicked. She moved like someone running drills she'd practiced for years. She asked for paperwork, stalled them with calm precision, and once even revealed a glinting pin on her jacket collar that made Greg hesitate. Daniel noticed then how she always positioned herself with a clear line of sight, how she used words like jurisdiction with that quiet confidence. Finally, when the night knockoffs escalated to pistols flashing under porch lights, Sarah gave Daniel an order, not a request. Call the sheriff's office, report impersonators on their property. He did, his hands shaking, but what shook him more was her next move, sliding a digital recorder from her jacket and clicking it on. She had been expecting this, preparing for it, long before the polyester army showed up. The question gnawed at Daniel. Who exactly had he married? He thought he knew, but the pieces were rearranging fast, and Greg's game of intimidation was about to collide with a truth bigger than anyone in the neighborhood could imagine. Saturday afternoon, folding chairs lined up like some backyard courtroom, neighbors filing in with bottled water and suspicion, Greg strutting to the front in his navy polo and plastic badge like he was auditioning for a reality show. He called it a community dispute resolution, but everyone knew it was theater, his stage to paint Sarah as the villain. He pointed to the iron fence as if it were a crime scene exhibit, then raised his voice to claim Sarah was a national security risk. Some nodded, others just shifted in discomfort, but the crowd leaned forward, hungry for drama. Sarah let him run his lines, then stepped calmly into the center. No badge, no gun, just presence. She asked Greg for his police identification number. Simple, devastating. He stammered, claimed it was sensitive, but she'd already cued the projector, scrolling through the county roster. No Greg Morrison listed. Gasps. Then came the receipts, a fake badge order from an online costume supplier shipped to his address, a still frame of him photographing her staged documents at dawn, audio clips of his threats. Quirky tidbit. The HOA's borrowed projector screen was left over from a kid's Frozen sing-along party, meaning Greg's big moment of authority got wrecked by a projector that still had Elsa's stickers on its frame. When Sarah's calm voice cut through the murmurs, "You've been impersonating an officer, trespassing, and conspiring with real estate scam artists," Greg snapped. He shouted, his hands twitching, accusing her of being trained to kill. And then the gun came out. A scream, chairs scraping, neighbors ducking. But Sarah didn't flinch. In seconds she was inside his reach, twisting his wrist, redirecting the barrel skyward, the shot cracking into the air, but harming no one. 3 beats later Greg was face down on the grass, zip-tied by a sheriff who hadn't bothered to reveal herself until the very last second. The crowd, frozen in shock, erupted into applause that built like thunder rolling downhill. Deputies swept in, Detective Santos praising Sarah for delivering probable cause on a silver platter. But even as Greg was shoved into the patrol car, his words slithered out. "You were targeted long before you moved here. Others are coming." That night, Sarah laid out the flowchart of how Greg's scams tied to shell companies, to a man named Victor Hale, to schemes targeting dozens of families across states. Daniel realized the fence wasn't the fight. It was the doorway to something sprawling, calculated, dangerous. Historians still argue whether communities are bound by trust or fear, but Oakwood Heights discovered both in the same season. Weeks later, with Greg in custody and Hale arrested, Oakwood Heights tried to stitch itself back together. Unity barbecues replaced secret meetings. Kids laughed again on sidewalks once shadowed by paranoia. Sarah taught classes on spotting fake authority, reminding folks that the best defense wasn't paranoia, but vigilance. Neighbors who once avoided her now treated her like a guardian, though she kept her edge, reminding them that battles can return when you least expect them. And one autumn morning, when a white van lingered too long at the corner, Sarah didn't panic. She just watched, eyes narrowed, hand resting on the doorknob, a sheriff who knew storms return. The wind down begins soft, like a porch swing creaking in twilight. Imagine the fence that once split the neighborhood, now standing as an ordinary line of iron. Unremarkable, the sun sinking behind it, turning its bars gold for a moment before fading to shadow. Imagine the same street where voices once rose in anger now filled with the hum of lawnmowers and the shrieks of children playing tag, the kind of ordinary sounds that soothe rather than alarm. Sarah sits with Daniel in the porch lights glow, sipping tea, her calm a shield thicker than any fence, his hand resting near hers, the silence between them warm now rather than heavy. Neighbors wander by, not peeking from curtains, but stopping to share pies or wave goodnight. And yet, behind Sarah's steady gaze lies the quiet knowledge that peace is not permanent. It's something defended, renewed, and sometimes won the hard way. So as the story slows, let the rhythm soften, the sentences lengthen, like breath evening out after a run. Let the last image linger. A community scarred but stronger, a sheriff in plain clothes who never truly relaxes, and a husband who finally understands the depth of the vow he made. The night settles. The crickets sing, and the whisper left behind is simple. Quiet may return, but vigilance keeps it.